Hello and welcome back to another weekly episode review. Today we are continuing our journey with Servant on Apple TV Plus. This was episode 5 of season 2, dubbed Cake. Once again, food. This show loves food, loves to shove food right in your face. I will say this much. I think the last 2 episodes, we had pizza and we had 2 o'clock. The vibe of the show, especially for season 2, was starting to go up, 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 up. This took a little bit of a dive for me. It was a bit of a boring episode. Not a lot happened, but I think if it's maybe building up to the events of next week, I'll forgive it. But not a lot happened in this episode. It was the aftermath of the whole 2 o'clock situation. Again, these very scary attacks that Dorothy's doing to Leanne, like in the middle of the night. So there's a little bit of that going on, and the husband Sean still is like, "Okay, you literally are scaring me now. You're freaking me out like that." So that was kind of interesting. But again, the show is always so well shot. That's one thing I think the acting's top notch, and it's always well shot. But the big theme of this episode was cake, wasn't it, Taylor?
It was, and the cake in question was king cake, which Leanne ends up baking, and she talks to Sean's protege, who I love this guy. He cracks me up. Just even knowing he's in this film, I just see him as Flash Thompson. He has that sort of like very curiosity and young man wonder that he's just like always kind of like, oh, do your parents?
You should, if you like this type of role for him, you should see him in the Wes Anderson film, The Great Budapest Hotel. He's like the Grand Budapest Hotel, I should say. Okay, he's like the main character of that, and he's outstanding. That was kind of like his breakout role until he got Spider-Man. So
he's really coming up in there. But yeah, this again, like we said, there was so much build up with the last couple episodes of it was getting much more physical and scary and violent. And Dorothy, as her mania continues to drive her to get back this baby that's not her own. And, Sean and Julian are still kind of, pandering. It's frustrating me because they still haven't, seriously, how far are we going to take this? And it's in that kind of theme, like, how far the rabbit hole do you want to go? We've talked about this, but it continues to go down. But with this last episode, not a lot happened. It was, again, very brief until, the very end, but there's not, even the last part of it wasn't a huge big change or anything, or big reveal. It almost just brought us more questions and kind of reveals, and I feel like each episode was revealing a little bit more, like peeling back the layers. This one not so much.
We've been kind of guessing, is there a supernatural element to the show? It's felt like that since the beginning. And the end of this episode was obviously the big thing about this show has been the baby. And a king cake is famously, there's usually a small baby doll that's been inserted into the dough, and it's kind of like a fun game that goes along with that cake down in New Orleans and Louisiana. And so there was some imagery of, I think, the family thinking, oh, they sent us this as a message, and it's like, no, Leanne ordered that so that she could make a king cake. But then the creepy thing was, in the end, she's like wolfing down this king cake by herself. Oh, and all the lights are like popping off, and I don't mean like they're turning off, like all those Christmas lights were like literally like exploding. So I'm like, okay, there has to be something going on here, supernatural. There's been these things, Sean losing his taste and touch, and then other elements. I'm like, so, but to what extent?
Yeah, to what end?
The only real plot of this episode was that they did get a message from the family being like, all right, if you meet us at a certain place with money kind of situation, or ransom, which is what they've been kind of waiting, because they know that if they can find them, they could probably find Jericho. So we get our fun uncle back.
I know. I just love his like.
Where is she? Yeah.
It's like a little bit of a Batman. Where is she? And it was just like,
He's
oh my gosh,
creepy. He's got good
he.
eyes. He's
Oh,
creepy.
and he's been in so many great TV shows. A Person of Interest, and most recently, before this, he was in House of Cards. So
Hmm.
he definitely plays a little bit of a creepo. But this one is like, oh my god, he's total like nutcase, and he definitely adds a little flavor to it. But yeah, and also what's going on with that basement, because there's every time they're looking down at this hole which they filled up, there's still some stuff going on. Is this house built on an Indian burial ground? Like the
That'd
Shining
be cool.
style.
Like
We don't.
maybe that's what will happen. I mean,
Maybe it's not
this
Leanne. Maybe there's spirits. Where the house. We
and they
don't.
called her to the house. Who knows?
Exactly.
So
So
still a lot of questions, but yeah, that's the halfway point of season two. So we still have 5 more episodes to look forward to, which is great. I just hope that we will start to have a little more, stuff answered. And I really do wonder, how long is this show going to go for? Will this show wrap up then in season two? Are they looking at a season three?
yeah, I mean it's hard when you set the bar so high with the first season. Like how far can you go with this kind of genre and this storyline? So maybe depending on how this goes, maybe one more season. I don't know. It could be a good 3-season thing, and I feel like they can wrap everything up. But there's still a lot more to answer. But this was kind of a lukewarm kind of midpoint, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of every other episode this season.
Yeah, so we'll be looking forward to next week, see what happens. Hopefully, it starts to pick up again. But until next time, with our next video review here on Servant, just a quick reminder that season two of the Potential Podcast is coming up in just a few weeks in March. So stay tuned for more updates about that. And we'll catch you
Yes,
guys next time.
absolutely. And always remember, hey, what are your theories? Go down in the comments, check it out. We want to
Let
hear,
us know.
what do you think?
Of Servant.